whole contract is really a bundle of items. And so that is included in there, and you're correct, that is for 300. So one of the yearly requests that we make for the CARS program is for our TASER refresh, which is the electric devices. We will not be asking for that anymore. So there will actually be, I believe it's $55,000 a year that we normally need for refresh of those TASERs, which we will not need any longer.
So in this spreadsheet, that's wrapped into what's called software.
That is correct.
So that's a little misleading because that's actually hardware. Maybe that's the way I look at it. So the devices, okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, Ms. McPherson, the FTEs are our FTEs. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's $150,000 for 2016, and it goes up to 2020 $170,000.
That is correct because it was prorated for 2016.
Okay. Did the initial money for the cameras, aside from the federal grant, then come out of the CARS program?
Council members, there were a couple of components. One was the CARS program, one was the grant, one was extra funds that was put through the mayor's budget, and then the final segment was for the 2 FTEs.
Okay.
So that total was just under $1.8 million.
Okay. Thanks.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. McPherson, you may have just answered my question, but back in December 2014, City Council approved $1.14 million for last year's budget for 2015 for a 2-year implementation of body cameras. And then last year, City Council approved another $1 million for 2016. So what I'm trying to figure out based on this spreadsheet is we already have $2.14 million allocated toward this of taxpayer money plus the federal grant that we got. So how does that pay for things here in 2016, and is there any money left over?
Council members, yes, and I don't have the exact figures in front of me, so I'm just going to try to explain theoretically. First of all, last year, in 2015, we did have approximately $400 and something thousand left over of unspent CARS money that was given up, so to speak. We are not asking for rollover for those funds, so those funds are available for future use for something else, not related to this program. In prior years, the money that was spent was really for the testing program and had really nothing to do with starting now this implementation of this ongoing program.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gordon.
Well, I had another question, but maybe a couple questions. But one question is, who's going to be managing the contract? Is this IT, or is this the police department, or is there a team?
Council members, this is considered an IT project or an IT contract, and it's actually being introduced as an RCA under the auspices of IT. However, the contact for the contract itself will be primarily in the Minneapolis Police Department because of the technological nature of the equipment. So Lieutenant Reinhardt, in most cases, will be the contract for that. IT obviously is going to be overseeing it because they're intimately involved with this contract and with the program itself.
Okay, that explains why I was a little bit confused, and I think that sounds like a great approach to me. So I appreciate that. I was also wanted to ask a couple questions about the body camera policy and just get an update of where that is, and I have a staff direction that I want to move to, and I'm not sure if you're the person to answer that.
I think DC Glampy is going to come up.
Okay.
For that, right?
Yes.
Ms. McPherson, can you hold on just for a second? I have a couple questions for you before you sit down. Okay.
Okay.
First question is, with regards to the FTEs, I see $150,000, and you said about 2 FTEs, and I'm just wondering if that's going to be enough with regards to just, what we've seen in other parts of the country, let's say like Seattle and other places. Their FTEs are, upwards of about almost 14 or so, and I'm just wondering, in terms of the public's request for data and our responses with just 2 FTEs, I'm just wondering if we're going to come into problems with that. And is the approach just kind of that we're going to do kind of a first year, let's kind of wait and see, play it by ear, and then after that we'll just ramp up if we need to, or what's the plan?
Mr. Chair, it's an excellent question. And yes, I think that we're really not sure what to expect for this first year. Even if you look at the other cities and things, there's so many variables in what people are going to ask for that I think it's very, very difficult to pin down the exact number that we're going to need. I think the other variable in this whole thing is what our state legislature will end up doing regarding the whole body camera issue and privacy. So at this point, we want to start with 2. The one advantage of TASER is how easy it is to redact information. So we're hoping that will make it a fairly efficient process, but we will have to wait and see what happens once this is completely rolled out.
And we will probably have a contingency plan of some sort if let's just say there is a flood of requests for information. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. McPherson, another question that I'm hoping you can answer is, I very much appreciate the need for the 2 video analysts, at least, but I'm quite concerned about the rest of the process from the public's perspective. One of the things that we learned in the audit committee's consult to the body camera program was how we would receive in a request, and that would often be done from the city clerk's office perspective as they currently handle open data requests. So does this entire program account for quite a bit of extra need from the city clerk's office perspective, or any administrative staff that will be required to successfully manage a request for any of this footage?
Mr. Chair, council members, a lot of our data requests actually come directly through the police department. We have a data request department basically that provides a lot of the information. I can't really answer that, and I think I would like to defer to Deputy Chief Glampy, who is responsible for that area, if you don't mind.
Yeah, thank you. So Deputy Chief Glampy, I guess I'm just curious, when somebody goes to make a request for body camera footage, can you talk us through that process? Because to me, it feels like there's a piece missing here.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, right now it would come through. You could go through the city clerk's office, although we direct people directly to the police records information unit. They take that request in, and it comes in and out through them. One of the things we have to do, or we always have to do with every piece of video, is watch it from beginning to end. If somebody requests a piece of video, that is where the bulk of the time happens. If that video in the end needs no redaction, if it's a 40-minute video, you have to watch all 40 minutes. That is going to require a tremendous amount of time. Not knowing what the state legislature is going to do right now, it's pretty wide open for what you could get as a member of the public requesting that data. The state legislature right now is proposing a lot of different scenarios, and we're just kind of sitting back waiting. That's why right now we're at 2 people. We want to be responsible and not hire 20 to 40 people or request that and then say, oh, by the way, we don't need you anymore. We are putting ourselves in a position to, 1, see what the state legislature does, and then 2, respond accordingly. Also, once we get knee deep into this and figure out, okay, exactly what do we need? We want to be very responsible in our hiring practices to begin with. With that being said, I do think we are going to need more people once we get going, but I would rather give you a more accurate figure as we really get into it and figure out what exactly we need.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Deputy Chief Glampy. I appreciate it, and I know that you are very on top of those discussions at the state level about data privacy and how we will do that. I guess I still do have concerns that I do think the public should be able to request this like they do any other open data request. I do think we need extra resources in the city clerk's office for this kind of thing so they can work with the police department, because that is the transparent way, I believe, to receive a request from and be responsible back to the public with the help of the police department to provide that material. So that's just an opinion that I have. So thank you very much. That answers my question.
Ms. McPherson, one more question before we have Deputy Chief Glanby or Hernando come up. I think you might have maybe answered the question or touched upon it, but I just want to get clarification. This idea of a replacement program for 300 conducted electrical weapons, those electrical weapons are the tasers, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and so essentially, I mean, what our processes have been before is that, if we want to replenish them or have new ones, essentially it comes through on a different item. But in this situation, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, for this 5-year cycle, we will get 300 tasers, and we're not going to see a separate request. It's just going to be that, right? And that's a part of the bundle for the body cameras as well. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also had just one final comment for Ms. McPherson. So thanks for notifying that. Ms. McPherson, I just wanted, since we're talking about it from a budget standpoint and having a lot of time to weigh in about the funding of this, is all of this accounted for in the 2016 budget?
Mr. Chairman, council members, in the 2016 budget, yes, it is all accounted for.
Right.
And it includes the $600,000 of body camera grant.
Right. And I know, I just wanted to make sure we all knew this is not the first time we've thought about these costs. I mean, it's been a terrific process with finance, MPD, IT, and the attorney's office, making sure that we're thinking through this beyond the test phase that we had the pilot program. We gained a lot of information. And this council has already taken action on this for up to 3 years ago in terms of studying this. And I just want to make sure that we're in line and we've accounted for it from a capital expenditure point of view. We delayed the purchase in anticipation and in the hope of receiving the additional $600,000 grant from the federal government. And now that that's in place, I think that was a great decision to do. So we have more funds available to do this with other areas. One final thought I had, and I know it's not directly related to this action, but do you know what other jurisdictions are doing with their purchase plans? Because I know St. Paul was also a grant recipient. Do you know where they're at in their phase of implementation?
Mr. Chair, council members, I do not know where St. Paul is. I do know, as some of you may have heard, that we recently found out that there will be a delay in the receipt of the equipment for body cameras. And the biggest reason for that delay is because these grants all came out at the same time, and so everybody's purchasing at the same time. So we talked about that happening at the end of last year, and sure enough, that is what happened. Probably not much of a surprise, but I think that probably there's a lot of agencies who are pretty much at the same spot as we are right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Ms. McPherson, when you talk about this delay of about 60 days, that means that originally we had anticipated March or end of March as the first rollout in the first precincts. Now it's probably going to be end of April maybe, right?
Mr. Chair, council members, it probably, by the time the contract is signed, because they will not do anything until they receive the purchase order, we're probably looking more like sometime a May start date, realistically.
Okay. Right. Deputy Chief Glanby or Hernando?
Mr. Chair, perhaps if I could just walk through a real brief timeline. I know Deputy Chief Arredondo also has some information to provide with that too. Hopefully we can answer some of those questions. Ms. McPherson talked about our anticipated receipt of these is going to be delayed by about 60 days. And we ended up getting in line with a whole bunch of recipients of this grant and a lot of folks who didn't get the grant who also had to wait. So we're getting in line with places like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. So we understand the 60-day delay is is going to be an industry standard right now, and we kind of knew that going into it and planned for it. The good news there is it gives us plenty of time to get all our hardware put in place. Councilmember Gordon, you talked about the policy. I'll be happy to touch on that. We're going to have plenty of time to receive the public input that we're looking for on our policy draft. So we're going to make the most of this 60-day delay and essentially get things out right. Between now and then, we are going to hopefully roll out our policy within, I would hope, the next couple of weeks. It's in the final stages of being reviewed at the chief's level, city attorney's office, and we're going to put out a draft policy to the public. We'll make, obviously the council will get it, and all the public, and we are going to seek their input over the course of those couple of months on top of what we received last fall. Going forward, hopefully we get these things by mid-May. And we're still planning on going precinct by precinct. We've been very public that we're going to start out in the first precinct. They have the most infrastructure in place. They were one of the precincts that did the pilot project for us, and we think they're going to be in the best position to take these tasers and give us the feedback we need. So when we go to the next precinct, we've been able to learn from them. And we're going to go very methodically, precinct by precinct. To throw these all out at once would be complete chaos for us and would not be fair to anybody, the officers, the public. We want to do this very deliberately, do it right the first time for everybody, and it's going to mean a much better rollout and a much better product for everybody. So we hope to have everything rolled out by the end of fall. Do the math. We go precinct by precinct. It's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks for each precinct. And that way, too, if there's questions, we have the ability to go back to that precinct and make sure they understand what they're getting, as opposed to making them wait in line while we try and service 600 people with these cameras.
Chair Yang, council members, I'd also just like to add on from what Deputy Chief Glampy mentioned about the community report back on this. I know Director Corbell's here from Civil Rights, and it was her team that really engaged our PCOC commissioners to really help us with that in community engagement. They were very intentional in conducting 3 community sessions last year, and it's important for us to, once this policy is delivered, to make sure that our PCOC commissioners have that their board can review it, digest it. The hope is then to appear before the next PCOC commission meeting with that, but also really seek their guidance and assistance in working towards shaping what other community input we can receive. As our Chief Information Officer, Mr. Dahl, mentioned, this is an evolving technology. Anytime that we have policies that are separate from just conduct but involve technology, it's something that constantly has to be looked at, worked on, and evaluated. So we really are going to be looking forward to the assistance and guidance of our PCOC commissioners to help us in that, to continue to keep getting community feedback. PCOC is important because they do have a built-in auditing function. We're hoping that once this equipment gets rolled out there, that they have enough time and enough sampling to either look at cases or issues or concerns or successes that these cameras have seemed to have, and we can start looking at best practices and what other things we should look at including as a policy develops. So just wanted to make that comment.
Councilmember Gordon.
I have a staff direction that my colleagues have in front of me that I'll move forward to, and it relates to just what you were talking about. And I know that we had a chance right before this meeting to talk about it too, and it's just directing the police department staff to return back to this committee on March 2nd to present a plan for community engagement and outreach on the proposed body-worn camera policy, and further directing MPD staff to return to the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Committee no later than April 6th to present the final proposed body-worn camera policy. And just speaking to that, I also appreciated the work that the PCOC did in getting feedback early on and community involvement. And if you want to come back with PCOC at your side with the community engagement plan, that's fine with me, or any other staff you might want to work with. We also have our community engagement staff in the NCR department, and so they may have some ideas too. I just think it's important that we report back, get more input based on what the feedback is. I think people are very curious to see how close our policy is going to be to the PCOC policy that was made very public. I think there were some other policies. The ACLU had a model policy that was out there too, And and what are the differences and why are there some differences? So I think that will be very important. Also, not part of this staff direction, but just a comment about the rollout that I think is going to be really important and maybe can kind of follow on these is what kind of community education we do to the general public about this new piece of equipment, what it means, how does it work, what are your expectations, what can the public request of an officer to do or not do in relation to the camera. I think I like the precinct by precinct idea, and the fact that you're starting with precinct 1, I think that definitely means the next one is 2, and then 3, and then all the Ward 2 precincts will be covered.
No.
So I appreciate that. Just
I think 4 is 2.
I believe I have the floor, Mr. Chair. You could maybe tell us the plan, because I don't know that it is 1, 2, 3. I said that somewhat facetiously. Nevertheless, I do think it's going to be really important that when we not only are we educating ourselves and our officers about the cameras, but just the general public, much as we might do about here's what you do about parking and snow emergencies or something, just so I think it has to be thorough and pretty comprehensive.
And Chair Yang, Councilmember Gordon, just to follow up on that. So besides the assistance we'll be seeking from our PCOC commissioners, we've been grateful to have David Rubador's team from NCR. Ms. Christina Kendrick is here, and she's also been working with us to look at how what's the best way some of that educational piece can happen with the assistance of our NCR team as well. So.
And Mr. Chair and Councilmember Gordon, we also are going to be very transparent as we were with our pilot project. That thing is going to be plastered all over our website. It'll be very public, the policy, both the draft and any final policy as well as any revisions, because we fully expect there's going to be, with any policy, lots of revisions going forward. That will be all over our website. We'll make sure everybody understands what the changes are. And we also had good success with putting a YouTube video on there, doing some explanations. So I would really like to make that part of this as well. And as part of, like you said, that community education piece, because we want to be upfront with what it is. That's why we're kind of glad of the 60-day delay, because we want to get this policy out there, be as transparent and hear as much input as we can rather than, try and rush it along. So really, in the end, this is going to be a good thing, I think, for everybody.
Council President Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess, Deputy Chiefs, what was our experience with the pilot program? Did we have big interest, increased requests for access to the tapes that were obtained or done?
Mr. Chair, Council President, we did receive the give us all your body cam video requests.
Let's give that all, like the overarching, okay.
We didn't see a lot of individual requests for specific body cam video. Most of it would have come from attorneys and whatnot for specific cases, which we expected. The one thing I will say about our pilot project that told us it was a success, and this whole thing that we're asking you for is a success, is when the majority of the cops as part of this program either said, do we have to give them back, or when are we going to get them back? That spoke volumes to us that our officers embrace this, they're ready for it, and we're excited about that part because they want these things. They understand the value that they have. So that spoke volumes to me that pilot project really was worth the time that we put into it.
And if we would experience this delay, and I guess I want to ask, how are we participating then at the discussions at the state about what the rules are going to be about body cams? And then if we get into this year of limbo like we had with license plate readers, what do we do then? Just fall back on existing state law then, I suppose?
Mr. Chair, Council President, exactly. We're going to be required, even like right now, to follow the existing law and just wait for any changes, because there is law right now that dictates. We anticipate potential changes in that law, but if not, at least there is a law that directs us, as opposed to nobody really knowing what to do. So that is a good piece. We are working with IGR, with Jean Ranieri and Melissa Lesh, visiting individual legislators over there and really following their lead. So city's IGR is right on top of this. So yes, we do have an active role over there. And as a matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with one of the legislators that's very interested in this. So
Great, thank you.
PC Glampy, could I just get clarification on this? Council member Gordon was joking about this, but I mean, in terms of the rollout, I mean, we know that the first precinct is coming up first, but my understanding was that fourth precinct comes next and then it goes on. Can you just kind of give us a list of who's first, second, third, to fifth?
Mr.
I don't
Chair.
want you to get in trouble, but I do want to hear it just for the record.
Mr. Chair, absolutely. In an effort to reach a compromise, we're going to go with the fourth precinct will be at next, simply because they are the busiest precinct, and then we're going to make sure the third precinct is right after them. The plan was then to do the second precinct prior to the U getting back in session. That's going to be pushed back, obviously, a little bit, but I think we're going to continue that order of first precinct, fourth, third, second, and then fifth. And unfortunately, we had to do it in some order, so we tried to be very strategic about that. And but again, first precinct is we want them to be kind of the leaders and help us train the others. So that's why we chose them first.
Okay, and before we take a vote on this staff direction from Councilmember Gordon, I just wanted to say that when you were talking to me, one of the things I heard was just this thing of calling these body cams tasers as well, just because it's from the same manufacturer. And I think we probably do have to have a new name for that, because I think generally within the public, I mean, they know, when you say taser, they know it's that other thing that is not your gun that tases people. And so, with these body cams, I don't know. You guys can come up with a catchy name for it, but probably not taser, though, because it's going to scare the heck out of people, right? I mean, hey, I have my taser on. It's right here. Probably not good.
Mr. Chair, I couldn't agree more. I think we're going to call them body cams. I think
Perfect.
Because a taser, we all recognize what a taser
Yes.
is. It is the conducive electrical device. So yeah, we want to be very careful, and it's one of those things that's probably so deep rooted in everybody, both police and public's vernacular, that we're going to be. I think we would be best, as you say, it's a body cam. A taser something else, although they're manufactured by the same. I certainly appreciate the irony in that.
All right. Well, with Councilmember Gordon's staff direction, any other comments related to that? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. And Councilmember Gordon.
I did want to make one more comment about the policy, and also the fact that we are buying the electronic shocking devices or weapons as well. We need a good policy on that. And I know that we have one, and we had one, but there's some history how that policy got changed and rewritten. So I just want us to be looking at the policy of those, because often the only time that council can think about the policy or have any influence over it is when we're approving the funding of it. So we're approving that funding, and I just want to say we really need to look at that policy carefully. I think it's been they've been working better more recently, but we have had some instances of the past where there's some question about did we have the right policy and was the policy being followed. I'm saying this also for the PCOC folks who are here so that they can hear this too, because that's some guidance that they could offer. And the other thing that I want to stress is, as we're spending so much time and working on the body cam policy, I hope that people realize that if we're going to change that policy later, that there's going to be an expectation that the public gets to understand those changes and amendments, and it comes back to the council so we can understand those better as we do it. And probably we should review it in 6 months or a year or at an appropriate time after we've been using them, and consider making changes. But there have been times in the past where I think police policy, years in the past, have gotten changed without much notification after it was a very public process and when they were approved. So you don't necessarily have to respond to that, but I just wanted the opportunity to make that little speech.
All right. And I'm calling Council President Johnson with the last staff direction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've distributed staff direction. And it is that staff is directed, and this police department staff, to provide a staffing chart of MPD assignments at the next Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management meeting, and also to make the quarterly reports that we receive of response times a regular report to the Public Safety Committee so that it's available to the public. I'm interested in just an overall look, and I've asked this of other departments as well. Where are people situated? What's the numbers in the individual areas. And then also, I do think it is important that the public and my constituents have asked for this to understand what the staffing is. The report that we get includes staffing by precinct and then also response times by precinct by priority calls. So that information should be available to the public.
All right, and council members, any discussion on the staff direction? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. And, to the deputy chiefs, IT departments, I think Councilmember Gordon brings up a good point that, as the public safety committee, we want our hands on the policy. We want to be able to review it and, have a say in it. And, that's what the staff direction says. And hopefully that will be the case, starting with this next meeting where, you'll report back as to, what your outreach plan is. Because I certainly believe that, other council members want to be a part of doing the outreach because this is a big deal. I mean, this is a big deal across the city. And so we want to be a part of, helping our constituents understand what is going to happen, how our police department is going to transform with these body cameras. And so, if you can have us help you, that would be great. Okay. All right. Well, I think we've taken care of everything here, right? So I think we need to take a vote on this last item, right? Oh, we haven't done it on that. Yes. So I'm gonna move the last item, which is authorizing a contract with Taser International for the purchase of body-worn camera equipment and for providing a video storage solution in the amount not to exceed $4 million through March 14, 2021. Any discussion on that item? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you so much. And with that, I think we've taken care of all bits of business before us, and so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.